started?
Let's just do a scene
There's
shot.
plenty of chairs up front, or should I say plenty of pews up front? All right, for starters, my name is Bill Broker, and I'm a charter member of the Savannah Sunrise Rotary. So I was a member of the club when Maureen became a member of the club, and had a really wonderful experience with her in the club, and it was great to be a part of the Rotary Club when she was in it, and she was such a special part, and it really made a big difference to us. I'm really happy that a number of current Rotarians as well as former Rotarians got together to put this together, as well as some of our other friends, and I appreciate all of you who are willing to do that. So we're really happy to be here. I think it's great that we're here to honor a life and a person whom we all loved and cared for. So to get us off the start, to get us off go, I'll ask Karen if she'll come forward, and I think Karen's going to offer a few remarks before we get started. No.
Good person. Joe, you want to sit here? Can you hear Joe? Excuse me having to read this, but I'm not used to public speaking, even though I'm a total ham and like attention.
Raise it up a little bit.
This is unwarranted tonight.
Yeah, right there.
Good evening. You'll be able to hear better. I first met Maureen and Joe when the boat my husband and I were working on pulled into Thunderbolt for service work in 1994. They were both already land-based, but routinely took in yachties, as we were known, under their wings, introducing us to Savannah and a broader social circle of people they had met in their few years ashore. They were both especially welcoming, as our lives had followed similar courses. It was easy to become fast friends. Despite our infrequent visits to the shipyard, we remained in touch and we became land-based ourselves, and our friendship strengthened. In all those years, as our schedule permitted, we shared practically every major holiday together, including, of course, birthdays. Every event was a gastronomic delight because Maureen was an exceptional cook. She developed an interest in culinary skills either by default or design during her boating days, and carried that passion through with her to the very end of her life. In fact, even in the last days when she was still able to enjoy company but had very little interest to eat, said when asked what I could bring to tempt her palate, that she would like blinis with smoked salmon, sour cream, and caviar. She and I giggled about her champagne tastes on a beer budget, but fully knowing that I would not be able to fulfill her wish, as she was not at that time, able to swallow easily. Some of you will know that Maureen started to go downhill quite some years ago and began to withdraw from many events, including the Rotary and a few of our social gatherings. With the pandemic in 2020 and a fear of being exposed to COVID due to a decline in health, she and Joe remained housebound for about a year. When finally they did get comfortable enough to mingle, Maureen had become more infirm and walking was a struggle. Her health started to spiral, and though she always put on a good show, she was hurting. She was very matter-of-fact about her condition and was incredibly brave until the very end. In quiet conversations with her, she admitted that she was not afraid of anything except leaving Joe. Excuse me. I didn't think I would cry. Excuse me. Maureen, also known as Mighty Mo, was headstrong, a leader, argumentative, and stubborn. She was a true gale force to be reckoned with. She retained facts and stories and could relate dates and details with absolute precision, even until her very last days in the hospital. She was formidable, and though at times she appeared tough on the outside, those of us who knew her well also knew that she was a sentimental old softy on the inside who was a champion for those less fortunate.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you all on Joe's behalf for coming out to celebrate Mo's life, and in particular to Neville Stein and to the Rotary Club for kindly organizing this very touching event. Maureen would be especially tickled to know that she was still making an impression on everyone, even now, by disrupting your afternoon viewing of two major sports events, rugby and football, with this gathering in her honor. It's a pity she's not here now to celebrate her life with us. She would have so loved this. So thank you to all.
Thank you very much, Karen. So now I'm going to ask John Byrne to come up and speak. John is the captain of the Brotherhood of the Coast. So John, you want to come forward?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Take it away.
Thank you very much. You think I could do this without the microphone? Can everybody hear me okay? No?
We're old.
All right. All right. If you can hear me, everybody can. I'll try it. Let's see how I do. Thank you very much. By the way, I'm a former captain of this table of the Brotherhood of the Coast. Bobby Vermillion, I don't know if he made it yet, but he's coming, is our current captain. But I enjoyed about 5 years in that position. It's a great group, and I hope you all hear more about us and come around sometime. Okay, so you've been told I'm John Byrne, and Helen, raise your hand. This is my wife, Helen, and we're from the Athens area. We live in outside of Watkinsville, Georgia, up in the country, and our closest neighbors are Black Angus cows. So for years, we've been frequent visitors to Savannah. The reason we made that long drive was to get together with the Horvaths and our other close friends here in Savannah. And I guess many of these friends are members of the Brotherhood of the Coast. Now, Bill talked about it. I don't know if he knows a lot about it, if you guys have ever heard of it, but just briefly, I'll tell you what kind of a group it was that Joe and Maureen spent so much time with. Essentially, this fraternity, the Brotherhood of the Coast, is a social organization. Its members share a common love of the sea, and most brothers and families and first mates have a lot of boating experience in their past, and that spending time on a boat is usually a large part of their life. In the United States, there are 11 tables, which is another word for chapters, and internationally there are tables in 27 different countries. This organization was a perfect fit for a couple like Joe and Maureen. Maureen was in her element. She was well-traveled, she was outgoing, she loved people. It was fun for her. Maureen grew up in South Africa around boats and sailing. She loved to sail. She became a crew member on various boats where she lived and worked with the owners and delivery captains. She traveled extensively. She met Joe. They were married, and she spent much of her life in the United States. Maureen had that attitude, that can-do attitude that it took to work on a yacht. She, with just a few people, each person in the crew has to own and be responsible entirely for all aspects of their job. This translated for us into years of involvement with the Savannah table, helping it to be the successful group that it is. She was a hard worker, and she had a lot of fun along the way. I think everyone recognized that Maureen cared deeply about her memberships and her interests and her personal passions. As Karen said, she had a strong personality, and she cared about her commitments. If Maureen had an opinion, you would know about it. If she disagreed about something, she would fight passionately for her position. But if she didn't prevail, Maureen would always do whatever was asked to the best of her ability. Another thing that Karen mentioned, and I certainly agree, everyone appreciated Maureen's abilities in her kitchen. She always brought the best hors d'oeuvres to the party and many a good dish to all of those potlucks that we had. She couldn't compete with my chips and dips, but anyway. Okay. Maureen also had a sharp wit and a good sense of humor. Sometimes I'd see her get that twinkle in her eye that made me think she was definitely up to something. On one such occasion, accompanied by much chuckling, I caught her and a cohort checking out and rating, can you believe it, the best fit of jeans on the various men in the party. Another Maureen story involves the tradition of greeting and hospitality at the Savannah table. When other members of the Brotherhood of the Coast travel up and down the coast from north to south, south to north, or cross an ocean and stop at Savannah, the table will throw an emergency party to welcome them. Savannah members bringing food and drink will find them at their marina or anchorage and give them a proper Savannah welcome. Betty Vick from Texas recently reminded Helen and me of a time when the Vicks and the Hallmarks, both from Houston, were stopping at Savannah on their way up to Chesapeake Bay. They planned to be in Savannah for at least 2 weeks. Now, since Maureen knew everybody, she was in charge of the welcoming party. 4 nights later, after the 4th evening of welcoming, Betty and Jim approached Maureen and said, "We give up. You win. We just aren't used to this level of hospitality." Maureen threw up her arms at that point and said, "Thank God, I didn't know if I could go on for the rest of your visit." At that point, she and Betty made a schedule. Anyway, this was our Maureen, and she will be missed sorely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. As part of Maureen's interest in Rotary, one of the things that she held in really high esteem was the International Scholarship Program, bringing scholars in from all over the world to study here in Savannah and in South Georgia. And one of those people that she helped make the transition to Georgia and to studying here was Tatiana. And I think Tatiana is going to come here and make a few remarks as well. Tatiana.
Thank you. Well, hello everybody. Well, I guess I should have written a speech like you guys did, because there are so many memories of Miss Maureen and there are so many stories, and I'm not sure if I will be able ever to finish tonight if I keep on going. But yes, I'm this Tatiana, the student that came about 20 years ago. It's hard to believe because I always think of Miss Maureen when I came back. It's been 20 years and I'm already a grown-up woman, not a student anymore, and I have my daughter here, Sophia, who is 12 years old. And I'm still thinking of myself when I'm with Miss Maureen and Mr. Joe, of being myself, this young student, that she's always been taking care of me, even up until today. And so 20 years ago, I came in this country, and I, as a student, I was given some host families that would take care of me. And some of the host families are here, and Mr. Joe and Miss Maureen were not my host family. But throughout the first weeks of being in the Rotary, I met them, and she was this lady with always perfect hair, as everybody knows, perfect hair, perfect manicure, pedicure. She was this beautiful lady with a very nice accent, and she would make sure that you know that it's not a banana, it's a banana, and if it's not a tomato, it's a tomato. And she was the one who kind of adopted me, and I became her surrogate daughter from then on. She made sure that throughout the year, you know, we lived on campus, but she made sure that she kept us not homesick. She would go, if you remember the World Market, she would frequently go to the World Market and make sure that she got the goodies that would remind me of home, the black bread, and cookies and candies and juices and everything she could find there, little sprouts, little fish in the can, and she would bring those packages back to the students like me or other students throughout the years. And she had these connections with every student every year. So just imagine 20 years, at least 20 years I've been here. She's known students for 20 years, and she's done it for every student, not just for me. I just know that she would do it for other students just because she did it for me. And it didn't stop there. She didn't only fill up my belly or other students' belly, she also tried to enrich our life mentally. She would bring all kind of books. She would bring her books from home and let me borrow some books of classics, of English or American classics, and she would enrich us that way as well. And then when my kids were born and she developed her love for little kids, I guess, she would bring tons of books to my children. And that's one thing that when I talked to Sophia and I asked, what do you remember most about Miss Maureen? She would say she would always bring me these wonderful books, and these really good books. And I'm sure she still has boxes of those books at home, doesn't she? She had ideas when to give them, at what time to give. And that didn't stop even there. She one day came up and said, hey, Tatiana, what are you doing for your spring break or your winter break? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I just came here. I don't have any plans. So she said, why don't you join me and Mr. Joe and go on vacation and meet some pirates? I said, sure. Well, why don't we go to see some pirates? So we went down to Florida. We went all the way to Marathon. I think that's where we stayed. And that's the first time when I met the pirates, the pirates group.
Yeah.
And we went all the way to the Keys as well, and we went to the Hemingway house and saw the cats, and then we partied at that party, that all the tables from all over the country, not only the country, it's all over the world, they came together. And I fit in pretty well. I think I brought my patch. Well, I didn't. But I fit in pretty well, and one of the members of the table took me diving without, that was my first introduction of diving. And since then that love grew as well and opened up the sea world for me. And later on it opened up for Sophia as well. She's a diver now too. So that's another door that Miss Maureen opened up for me. And then we also traveled to Washington, Washington, D.C., and we met her other friends. So everywhere we went, she had friends, whether it's south, north, and I got lucky to meet all of them. And Miss Maureen didn't only do it for me, as I mentioned, she did it for other students as well. I got in touch, when she got sick and she was at the hospital, I got in touch with several students from the Rotary program. Some are in Turkey, some are in Norway, and I let them know, some are in Tanzania, I think. And I let them know that she was not feeling well, and they were all extremely sad and sent her greetings to her, and they were hoping she will get better. And so obviously everybody mentioned her love for food as well, and as far as I remember, Miss Maureen always had these wonderful stories of her sailing and how she drank the best champagne, Dom Perignon champagne. That was the one that she tasted with some of her great friends, and she met some movie stars on all her trips. She was always full of stories. And that board that you made, Mr. Neville, all those pictures, it's a great representation of her. She was always competitive as well, not only with her brother, little brother, she was also competitive. She was a competitive tennis player, right? So she was living her life to the full, and she tried all kind of areas of life. She touched everybody in her life, and she made sure that her love carried through to other people. So she showed me wonderful things that I hopefully will show to other people, and share that knowledge and love and passion and sympathy and care with everybody. And it's really hard to believe that she's gone. I still cannot think of her as not being able to call her on certain days like I usually do. I did, driving from work or coming from a trip. I would always call her and check on her and Mr. Joe. And so it is hard to believe that she's not with us anymore. But I feel so grateful to her that I was able to meet all her friends, Miss Elise and Karen and all other friends, when she always had lunches with her girls, or whether it's stories from her trips with the Pirates and tables and Rotary. And I was the lucky one who actually met everybody, and everybody who she touched has all these warm memories of her. So she will certainly be missed greatly. Thank you.
Well, Tatiana, you're certainly the embodiment of all the things that Maureen believed in and worked so hard to accomplish. Thank you. So now we're going to have a few moments for people to offer personal reflections that you may have. This is kind of open mic session, if you will. And if anyone would like to come forward and maybe offer a few comments or remarks or reflections or memories that they may have with respect to Maureen, you're more than welcome to step forward now. Not all at once. Just to get us started, I'll just offer, I'm sorry, come on up. All right.
Hey, Joe. My name is Stephen Thomas. I'm one of Joe's neighbors on 38th Street, and here today just to say how much of an honor it is to be your friend and neighbor, and also thank you so much for all of the banana breads, the other types of breads, the meatloaves that you and Maureen have made. It's fed us well, and just extremely, extremely thankful. So we miss Maureen a lot.
Anyone else? The story that I was going to offer was, so when I was in Rotary in the early days, I had children at Blessed Sacrament School, and whenever Lent was being observed at Blessed Sacrament, the children were encouraged to go to Mass, and I would go to Mass with them. But what that meant was that I had to be at Mass every morning, every day of the week, at 7:45. So as we got closer and closer to Lent, Maureen would always remind me, she said, I know Lent's coming up, I know you're going to go Mass with your kids, but make sure that you request your leave of absence in plenty of time for the board to approve it. Because we certainly don't want to miss any of the points that we get as to attendance and the like. But Maureen was a real stickler when it came to things like that. Does anybody else have anything they want to offer? All right. Cynthia.
When I arrived in Savannah, I heard rumors of another South African woman who was an extremely good cook, and people kept saying to me, "Oh, you must meet Maureen. You guys are getting on like a house on fire." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how I'm going to meet this woman, but sure, absolutely." Got my peepers out, and I think it was at the Savannah Wine Festival that that used to be at the Hilton, where I was the chef, and we were serving something on a table, and I think that's where I met Maureen. And she had Elizabeth in tow, and we just hit it off straight away. We became very good friends. We had a long relationship. I used to, on my way home from work, sometimes stop off and cry in Maureen's arms and say, "Oh, this is so difficult." And Joe, and we'd have a glass of wine on the porch and things like that. And Maureen was a very good friend to me. She introduced me to so many people here in Savannah. She got me into Rotary. Then finagled me into being the secretary, which she'll never forgive her for, because it was a terribly hard job, which she knew. But I did it under her guidance, and she was a very, 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 very special person, and she will be very, very much missed. I think about her often, but she was my first friend here in Savannah, and won't be my last, but the first one is always very special. So we miss her, and we love you, Joe.
All right, does anyone else have any remarks or comments or memories they'd like to share? All right, so I think I'm going to move on in the program. I'm going to ask Joe to step up because I believe Joe is going to do a reading for us.
So, Maureen, the first time I met Maureen and Joe was over on Park Avenue, and I used to live across from her hairdresser, Ted, and Ted was just wildly exotic. He moved, probably to one of the roughest areas of Savannah in the middle of the crack epidemic, and he set up camp, and he was this stable force in the neighborhood. And Maureen was one of his daring customers that would, come to the wrong side of town to get her hair done. And I met Maureen, and she reminded me so much of my own mother. I mentioned to Jessica, I was like, yeah, there's this gal over at Ted today. I'm like, by God, if she's not like my mom, she's got a little different accent, but clearly close connection there. As I got to know Maureen through the years, I really, I understood, she was very stoic and she was brave. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind and to be her honest self. And I admired that deeply. I thought that was probably one of the greatest attributes of Maureen, other than she met this guy who founded the Savannah Table with Albert. And I'm a member of their brotherhood. I was actually consecrated right here in this park. That's been sacrifice. But I have to say, Maureen, there's a wonderful part of all of our lives, where we come to this affirmation that life is truly delicate, and you have to be tough in order to handle that delicate. And I think Maureen really understood that. She was a very wise and a very brave person. And I never for once underestimated her powers. She was quite a force to be reckoned with. And with every power, there's these powerful people. There's always this supporting cast member, and they're making sure that everything works out. And that was Joe. And Joe was quiet, and he literally loved to serve and honor his wife. And I recognize that, Joe, because you truly understood your wife and you loved her so deeply. And as a man, I can tell you that's one of the best things you can do with a life. Be there in part to celebrate the person you love and support that person, especially when they're somebody that is bold. So Joe, I would like to just, before I read this wonderful send-off, I just want to tell you that, I know it's very difficult for you, but I can tell you hands down, you had a wonderful time, and I'm sure you wouldn't change a thing. And I'm so happy to be here next to you getting ready to read this. And this is something that Maureen had sent to many of us during times like this. And I remember she had sent it when my mother died 10 years ago. And this is by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and it's called Crossing the Bar. And I think I'm really honored to be here to read this tonight. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full of sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out are born of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. I'd like to ask Mick McKay to come forward now. I think Mick has a special presentation that Mick wants to make to Joe. Mick is a very gifted artist and a real asset to our club in many, many ways. And this is one of the ways that we didn't necessarily anticipate, but we're really happy that you stepped up to the plate. Mick?
Thank you. So Maureen was a Rotarian. Everybody knows that, I suppose. She was president of Savannah Sunrise 2006 to 2007. There are 6 past presidents. I think it's 6, there may be more, but I counted 6 past presidents of the Savannah Sunrise Rotary Club, and the current president, Eric Reisner, is with us tonight as well. So I have something for you, Joe. You want to stand up? This is on behalf of the Savannah Sunrise Rotary Club. Maureen personified the Rotary motto, which was service above self. And so I want to present this to you on behalf of the club and in memory of her. And so I want you to look at this and think of her and think of her service to Rotary.
Thank you. That was from a photo taken in 2014 when Joe and Maureen attended the district conference down in Jekyll Island. So. Thank you very much, Mick. All right, that concludes our program, except for one very special and final item. We'd all like to raise our glass, or as I think you say, load the cannons or something along those lines. So if you all load your glass to Maureen, to the memories she left us, and who she is in our hearts. Fuego. 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 All right. Thank you very much.
Turnout amazing. I want to thank everyone. Maureen, love to hear what she has. Thank you.
Oh yes, there's still some food left in the kitchen, so everyone will move in there and take care of that. Oh, I'm sorry. And also, if you would please leave your name and your home address on the sign-up book. We want to make sure that we can thank everybody for their participation and stay in touch.